President Chen Shui-bian left Taiwan on Monday night, flying with China Airlines headed for Central America to attend Nicaraguan President-elect Daniel Ortega's inauguration. Unlike last year, while he had no choice but to stop over Anchorage and Hawaii, Chen and his entourage were allowed to schedule transit stops in U.S. cities for this trip, which has been considered as a significant breakthrough in the U.S.-Taiwan ties.
这一次的出航在行程的规划上非常的单纯，去程将过境美国西岸旧金山停留1晚，参加就职典礼之后，回程将取到洛杉矶做短暂的过境停留。
During his stay in America, Chen could only greet overseas people of Taiwan across the street, considering the diplomatic gesture between U.S. and Taiwan. Neither the press nor Chen's guest list at the hotel were allowed to be revealed to the public. Nonetheless, bilateral relations had improved compared to last year, though slowly. Diplomatic situation around the globe has often been a challenging battlefield for both to compete with across the Taiwan Strait since long. It's getting more and more difficult for Taiwan in getting allies while confronting an ascending superpower, China. The trip to Nicaragua is intended to strengthen ties between the two sides and is seen as a great opportunity to demonstrate our political identity as a sovereign nation.
Welcome to this week's edition of Taiwan Outlook. China and Taiwan are having another round of diplomatic tug-of-war in Central America. President Chen is making a visit to Nicaragua, hoping to consolidate ties with that particular country. All the evidence indicates to us that China has been becoming more aggressive in the past few years in taking away Taiwan's diplomatic allies. So how do we interpret China's diplomatic offensives, and how will that affect cross-strait relations? In today's program, we are very delighted to invite Dr. Cheng-Yi Lin to come to our program. Dr. Lin is the professor at the Institute of European and American Studies at the Academia Sinica. In the year 2003 to 2004, he joined the government, serving as the senior advisor at the National Security Council at the Presidential Office. Dr. Lin, welcome to our program.
Dr. Lo, good to see you again.
As we know, that China has been very aggressive in the past few years in taking away Taiwan's diplomatic allies. How do you see the diplomatic competition between Beijing and Taipei?
So compare to year 2000, we have 24, but at year 2000, we have 29 diplomatic recognition. And in Central America and also Caribbean, we lost 2 diplomatic ties, such as Grenada and also Dominica. And we lost 3 diplomatic recognition in Africa, such as Chad and Senegal, and also, for example, the Liberia. Yeah. And in Europe, we lost Macedonia. So altogether, as we have seen in the past 6 years, we lost 5 countries, but we gained 1 in South Pacific, that is Kiribati. So in diplomatic competition with the PRC, in the past 6 years, we have seen the rise of China. And the leaders in Beijing have more resources, and also their leaders are determined with the rise of China. They travel overseas. For example, in year 2006, President Hu Jintao and also Premier Wen Jiabao, they all traveled to African country. So that is the reason why in the past 6 years, we have seen the loss, almost the loss of 6 diplomatic ties in the Taiwanese side.
Do you see any possible shift in Nicaragua's diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing?
That is the major concern for this country, Taiwan. And President Chen is quite determined to maintain diplomatic ties with Nicaragua new president, Daniel Ortega. And after his re-election, President Chen and also Daniel Ortega, they are in the telephone conversation. And President Chen is making his overseas trip to Nicaragua and try to consolidate. As we might be aware, President Ortega, during 1985 to 1990, he was the president of Nicaragua. And when he became the president of Nicaragua, he decided to cut off diplomatic recognition with Taiwan. And after he stepped down in 1990, the new president of Nicaragua decided to come back to to Taiwanese side. So in the past 16 years, Taiwan and Nicaragua maintained a very good diplomatic relationship. However, during the presidential campaign, Daniel Ortega mentioned that he would consider to shift diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing.
But as we know, that some of those countries are taking advantage of the diplomatic competition between Taipei and Beijing in trying to get more financial support from either country. Do you think that Taiwan is paying too much for keeping these diplomatic allies in those countries?
We have only 24. If we look into the Chinese leader, they are also trying every means, try to maintain diplomatic ties with as many countries as possible. And they try to get new diplomatic recognition from Taiwan. So that was the reason why I mentioned that in the past 6 years, we lost 6 diplomatic ties altogether. And if we look into, in the past year, the Taiwanese domestic politics is in the chaos. And our parliament, our legislative yuan, has not supported the government enough, sufficient, for example, in our diplomatic budget. So if we try to compete with Beijing, Taiwan is going to lose the battle. However, if we have the most sufficient diplomatic budget, and also if the government and also the opposition leader, they try to maintain Taiwanese diplomatic tie, I think we still could have the minimum diplomatic recognition.
But as you said earlier, that with the rise of China, China is now having more resources available to engage in this kind of arms races or diplomatic races between the two sides. Do you think that Taiwan is on the losing side in the long run?
People might argue that Taiwan is in the losing side, but if we look back, for example, in 1989, after the Tiananmen incident or the Tiananmen Square massacre, Taiwan really gained 7 diplomatic recognition after the 1989. So that will depend on the domestic politics in the PRC and also the domestic politics in Taiwan.
But as we know that in the international community, Taiwan's investments in those countries have been labeled as a very negative image, such as dollar diplomacy or even checkbook diplomacy. Do you think that's a fair statement about Taiwan's diplomatic assistance to those countries?
Taiwan and the PRC, they are competing with each other. And I could argue that dollar diplomacy is the necessary evil, not only for Taiwan, but also for the PRC. And I could argue that in comparison, Beijing spent more money than that of Taiwan spent in maintaining diplomatic recognition. For example, last year, 2006, we have seen the leader in Beijing, they invited more than 40 country leaders, state leaders from Africa. So in the so-called Sino-African Cooperation Forum, more than 40 leaders from African countries, they visited Beijing, and President Hu Jintao pledged more diplomatic assistance and also financial assistance to African countries. So I argue that it is necessary for Taiwan if Taiwan tries to maintain diplomatic recognition.
Chinese diplomatic offensives or even activities or visibility in those regions have already caused concerns from other countries, including Taiwan and other countries. How does the United States or Japan read Chinese diplomatic offensives in those regions, including Central America and also Africa?
In the past few years, the energy become a very important issue in foreign policy. And the PRC is investing or locking up all the energy resources overseas, from Central America to Southeast Asia, from Latin America to African countries. So that is also the reason why President Hu Jintao and Premier Wen Jiabao, they all make the overseas trip to African countries and also Central Asia. So if the PRC is determined to become the potential superpower. That will threaten the security of Japan and also the United States, or potentially threaten if the PRC lock up all the resources and the energy. So Japan is very much concerned, particularly when Premier Wen Jiabao made the trip to South Pacific last year. And in the South Pacific Islands, that is the territory of, when I mention the territory, I mean the sphere of influence of Australia and also Japan. So they are concerned about the diplomatic initiative from Beijing, because in the past, Beijing does not put too much attention on those areas.
So Taiwan's keeping diplomatic ties with those countries also serve the interests of other countries in the region as well?
Particularly in Latin America. For example, we maintain 7 countries of diplomatic recognition in the Central America. That was regarded as the backyard of the United States. So when the PRC tried to use the canal in Panama and also try to manipulate the media and also the left-wing government in that region, that will cause the new concern for the United States.
You talk about Panama, and there are also rumors about Panama's efforts to take advantage of diplomatic competition between Taiwan and China. Do you think that's also a possibility that Panama may switch their diplomatic ties from Taiwan to China?
I could say maybe for those countries, they are trying to gain the better benefit from Taipei, either from Taipei or Beijing. So it's very difficult for Taipei and even for Beijing to have the diplomatic competition, cutthroat competition. Taiwan have only 24, but in the sites of the PRC, they have more than 165. So they need to spend more diplomatic and financial resources to maintain the diplomatic recognition. So if Taiwan and the PRC, they could have some kind of tacit understanding. For example, since 1971, we have maintained diplomatic tie with around 25, 26, sometimes 27, but sometimes 24 as a current. So if Beijing and Taipei have that kind of tacit understanding, today the other side, to have the living space, I could argue that Taiwan and the PRC could have diplomatic truth, even though they don't have any negotiation in the table.
But a very legitimate question that has been asked by the people in Taiwan, also by other foreigners, is that is it necessary to maintain a certain number of diplomatic allies to claim ourselves to be a sovereign country?
I could argue that that is the long-time debating issue, not only in Taiwan, but overseas, and even in the PRC. For example, in the past several years, the PRC has spent a lot of financials and diplomatic foreign aid, foreign assistance. And the living condition in the PRC, people, they might have the second thought. The PRC is a rising power, while still maintain so many diplomatic recognition and spend so much financial resources in keeping so many countries overseas. And so that is the same, the case in Taiwan the same, the domestic politics and also social welfare. But we need to calculate if Taiwan does not maintain any overseas recognitions. That will quite similar to that of Hong Kong and Macau. And Hong Kong and Macau doesn't have any overseas embassy.
That's right.
And Taiwan still have 24 overseas embassy. So I do believe we do need to have some magic number. Not too many, but not as less than 22. That is the minimum diplomatic tie since 1971.
Yeah. In addition to his visit to Nicaragua, President Cheng is also making a transit in the United States. So do we see any changes in the arrangement of President Chen's visit in the United States? And how do we see the current relationship between Taiwan and Washington? That's the topic we're going to talk about when we come back. Let's take a short break.